It's a bit like weighing yourself without blood, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not tried that yet.
Yeah. Well, hello and welcome to the Evo podcast episode 26. I'm reliably informed. I don't believe them, but I've been away, so I trusted James on that one. So welcome Dickie, James, Yousuf.
Hello.
Hello.
We are recording this in our lovely un-air-conditioned office. Little message there for our CEO, JV. We would like an air conditioning unit, please. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I apologise for the four rather sweaty faces. What have you been up to? What's been happening since I've been away and left you to stuff?
We've all been diligently working away, Stu.
Is that why
I've
I've just got the email from Ev asking where the copy is?
Yeah, Ev's back on holiday.
Yeah.
Off from holiday.
Yeah. Well, one thing that struck me while I was away and not looking at my phone, someone set another record at the Nürburgring.
They did.
They have. The Americans have sort of taken over. First it was Mustang, was it the GTD? And now it's that Corvette ZR1X, which has done a 6:49.275, which is a mighty nearly 2 seconds quicker, 2 and a bit seconds quicker than the Mustang, which is interesting with the US sort of these high performance cars, sort of proper drivers' cars, coming over to Europe and taking on the ring. It's quite a big thing, isn't it?
They've been in a bit of a bubble for a while, haven't they?
Yeah.
With a lot of their muscle cars sort of pass us by, don't they? All the Demons and Hellcats and all the super cool stuff that they do. But I think that's the only time these things really register on our radar, isn't it? Is when they come to Nürburgring. But they've really shaken things up, which is good. They've rattled a few cages, haven't they? I think with those cars.
Yeah, I think that's.
But they've done it with like 450 more horsepower than a Mustang GTD, so it's like there's some context there. But
yeah, they're Mustangs and ZR1 or Corvettes in name, aren't they? They're quite special things. But we sometimes have a bit of a sort of downer on the ring, don't we? Of cars being developed and set up just to do a lap time and what's the relevance to it. But more and more, particularly now, some of the cars that are doing the times. You drove the Golf Club Sport 50th S thing.
yes,
Whatever they got the name wrong for.
Yeah,
the 50th edition, which is basically Club Sport S.
Yeah.
But that's going for a time and doing a time, but it's also a really good car away from the ring, like all the Porsches and the AMG Black Series and stuff. It still resonates, doesn't it? And obviously it's gone way across the pond now.
I quite like the fact the American stuff still looks like they've turned up with the wrong car. It's like they're trying to get a sort of square peg in a round hole, aren't they? You see look at the power thing, massive power, but it's a massive car, and you see how effective a 911 RS is or something. But I love the fact that they're totally opposed in philosophy and not in execution, because they're both done to a very high level, aren't they? But they've come from opposite ends and they meet and achieve such a similar lap time.
Yeah.
I think you have to be excited about that stuff, whether it's relevant or not. It's almost by the by, isn't it?
But the time is just. I mean, we're old enough to remember when cars started to drop below 7 minutes.
Well, we did an 8-minute Heroes cover story some years ago, didn't we?
not Heroes anymore.
Yeah, the fastest stuff that had ever been round there, really, like R500 Caterham and XJ2. Well, it got some quite cool stuff, actually. R32 Skyline and 33 Skyline and all those kinds of cars. But everything is so, like a proper extreme road car now is way more extreme than any race car was back then, isn't it? I think it's
interesting, isn't it? None of the hypercars aren't. No one ever asked, well, why aren't you F80 you drove a couple of weeks ago? But there's no real clamber for anyone to say, well, how fast is it round the ring?
I think maybe it's such a specific challenge, isn't it, that everything has to be so focused on that 12 and a bit miles that. And it's a bit like the Wild West, isn't it? Like, you'll set a time and you'll adhere to all sorts of homologation regs and this and that, and then someone else will turn up with a ridiculously tuned, non-homologated whatever, but it grabs the headline is the time, isn't it? The means by which it's been achieved is almost
it's not
secondary.
Like it's an FIA homologated sort of.
And I think that's why there's always been such conversation around it, isn't it? Because you never quite know what spec the car's in, or
But that makes it fun sometimes.
Yeah, I think
it's
so.
still captain though, isn't it?
Yeah,
So everyone's
yeah,
like, Well, how quick? Yeah, I don't care, but how quick was it?
Yeah, was it on
it
tyre
is just like
softener
the ultimate time attack now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think is almost how the manufacturers are treating it. But you know, or you certainly get the impression that the Porsches maybe and a few of the others they're going to build 1,000 of those things, aren't they? And they're not a proper Skunk Works special. But I quite like the fact that the GTD Mustang has been done by their motorsport motorsport department, and they've had a couple of goes at it now, haven't they? Because they're so determined to get the best time out of it.
And from speaking to people in the company, part of the reason they wanted to concentrate on the Nürburgring time was, it's seen in the outside world and in America as being the backyard for Porsche, AMG, BMW. So to go there and do that.
Yeah. It's similar to when Nissan came over with the GTRs and started to wind up the Europeans. It sort of pushes everyone, and it makes a great sort of soap opera almost, just to get some popcorn and watch, doesn't it? Otherwise it would be quite sanitised. And there's the other car as well that the ProDrive's built, that is the electric
that you can't
car.
remember the name of, whichever yellow it was with a wing.
Pronounce the name.
The unpronounceable
It's a
name.
Xiaomi, isn't it?
Xiaomi, I think.
that's it. Yeah,
Which has done, but it did the time a couple of months ago, but they felt to sort of raise it again that they've done it. But it's interesting how it's still, you sort of feel for the engineering that goes into some of the EVs that are doing these amazing times, but it's still something with a big block V8 or a very sort of traditional ICE car that is what gets the headlines and gets people talking.
I think the EV stuff's always been slightly odd, hasn't it? Like even from when the Neo EP9 or whatever it was called, that RML built for Neo, did an extraordinary time, but it didn't really lead to anything. I know it was just to get the Neo name out there, but then Lotus did it as well, didn't they? But you could see it was a completely stripped out Evija, like nothing to do with what they're trying to sell, are struggling with. So I think, I know we've just said it doesn't, the Mustangs and Corvettes and GT3 RSs and stuff, they don't necessarily need to be massively relevant, but they sort of do, don't they? They have to be rooted in some sort of reality. There has to be something
that's connected to an enthusiast that's going to bind to it, whether it's a regular Mustang or a regular C8 or a E-Ray or Z06, isn't it? It's got that connection. But the EV stuff, the engineering into it to do that,
I don't really know what point they're trying to prove.
Because nobody's taking an EV on track these days. I mean, where do you charge it? The last 2 laps before losing power, most of them. So it's.
I think perhaps as a way of them understanding how to manage the energy in the battery and where they can get some regen and where they can't and how to deploy it. All of that.
It's probably far.
It's obviously really interesting, and will trickle down into other stuff, I'm sure. But for now, it's such an obscure kind of exercise. It's a laboratory exercise, isn't it? With a bit of PR value to it, I think. Yeah,
probably more valuable to the battery and motor manufacturers than Formula E ever will be, isn't it? It's more relevant. You've got cars that stuff is going to go into, so you've got the mass and the footprint and stuff. So
it's all good, isn't it?
It's still, that place has still got that appeal, hasn't it?
I think it's probably fueling all the massive crashes in the tourist sections.
There's some scary stuff recently, isn't there?
That's very, very scary stuff. I do fear that.
It feels like it's almost. I don't think it would have to be a cataclysmically horrendous
there's been
body count, wouldn't it, for them to knock it on the head. But if it happened anywhere else, you can't imagine it would be allowed to continue, can you? Really, I don't know.
I need to get out there. I haven't driven it yet, so it's before they close
from
it all
in your
down.
virtual McLaren M23.
M23, my weapon of choice.
It might be slightly different. We'll get you out there or something. Maybe not an F1 car. And also, having been away for a couple of weeks, of course, there's been another hypercar announced.
Another week,
another V12 manual rear-wheel drive hypercar, the Garagista GP1.
Yeah, I like the sound of this actually, because it's not the usual kind of, again, phone Cosworth. How many revs do you want? How many cylinders do you want? Kind of exercise. I know they're going to outside suppliers for key parts of the car, but it's still quite a intoxicating recipe, isn't it? I think, and a bit of mystery around it.
Yeah,
but with credibility that underpins the engine supplier and a few of the other.
Yes,
people that are
it's
involved.
carbon tubbed, isn't it? From a lot of it's coming out of Italy, but they're sort of calling it a British.
Okay,
British name coming back,
Garagista
yeah.
was kind of a.
It's what Ferrari called
yeah.
all the small British
Yeah,
race
it's
teams,
teams,
wasn't it?
yeah.
When
Yeah,
they
it's
came
almost
into Formula One,
sort of, yeah,
Cooper
it's
and
a-
Lotus and all those
Bit of
guys.
tongue in cheek.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you
But
know
it's
who's
an
behind it?
MC12 based engine, isn't it? From the
Yeah, so it's a 6.6 V12 in this. That's a bit bigger than it was in the MC.
800
it's
horsepower,
800
isn't it?
PS, isn't it? So it's a bit more power than
Hmm.
what an MC12 had. It looks quite a cool thing.
Mhm.
In terms of looks, there's bits of, I don't know, I was looking at some of the images from the rear and stuff. It looks a bit Reviotto.
Yeah,
From the
there's
back,
certain. I think it's
um,
always the same, isn't it? There's certain inspirations from other
Yeah,
From
because the
other cars.
designer is ex-Bugatti,
and a few other people, isn't it? So
and Rimac. So yeah, it looks a cool thing, but it's only renders at the moment, isn't it? 25 cars, £2.45 million.
I think it's
but
a serious.
I think
It seems like a serious effort, and I think the timescales they're working to, they're not ridiculously, overly optimistic. It's a couple of years out.
Yep.
I think before customer cars are likely to appear, which is realistic. I think if they know the powertrain's proven, and I think you have to be excited about them, don't you? Until such time that they appear or
don't
or quietly
Yeah.
disappear. But I
Yeah.
think from what we know, the backing and the aspiration for the car, I think you'll know if the story moves on every 6 months or something and it builds up some momentum, then
It's legit.
it's
yeah.
it's legit and it's going to appear and it's worth getting properly excited about. But good luck to them. I think it's a
Yeah.
potentially very cool thing.
Yeah.
And
We were
okay.
saying earlier, it's a bit sad that there's lots of these £2 million+ hypercars out there, but very few hot hatches and sports cars.
Yeah.
Actually, more hypercars.
Great
than
time to
sports
be a
cars.
billionaire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Has there ever been a bad time to be a billionaire?
But yeah, it's where I think it's where you can raise funds and you don't have the restrictions of mass production and global emission standards and all of that. You're building
Yeah,
in such
just build
tiny
what you want.
numbers, which is a shame. But you do worry for the bigger OEMs of if you're just only offering sort of homogenised products that doesn't make you stand out from anything. Why do you want to? You spent however many years, 50, 60, 70 years building your brand and people wanting to be part of your brand, that you now only offer products that everyone else has.
Yeah.
Or you have to go to 7 figures and have something completely
I think it's hard
bespoke.
to understand, isn't it? If you're into cars but you don't necessarily understand why manufacturers are making the cars they're making, but why these startup supercar companies can make those, or why the best resto modders can do what they're doing.
Yeah.
You sort of think, well, why are you building all this boring stuff? But it's because they're the only ones that have to play to the sort of big boy rules, aren't they?
Yeah.
Really. So it's
Yeah, they're very much, their hands are tied, aren't they? They have to,
unfortunate.
and they lay their as we know, they lay their product plans down and investment plans years and years in advance with what legislators tell you you're going to have to build, what customers tell you they want, and you've got to get that blend. And it's a bit scary at the moment because there's quite a few companies announcing some very scary financial
Some
results on them.
that were announcing very impressive results.
Yeah, very
Really
short time ago.
not so long ago.
Yeah, so it's interesting and quite a bit disheartening, isn't it? That all the it's really cool stuff, but it's all for the few at the very top.
Just out of
And
reach, isn't it? Yeah.
as the sports cars, the Cayman Boxsters, the A110s, the hot hatches and stuff are all coming to the end of their
Yeah.
life, and there was nothing put in a product plan 5 years ago to replace them. So whatever happens, whether we go back to more plug-in hybrids and internal combustion engine stuff, that's going to take. There's going to be a period.
It's
where
another
they-
3,
it's
4,
all
5 years,
isn't it?
isn't it, before anything new starts to appear,
Yeah.
unless they can repurpose, do a bit of a sort of F8 Tributo style rehash of
Yeah.
existing models just as stock gaps, which I think certainly, I don't know, like Porsche's the biggest one,
Yeah,
isn't
but
it?
I think
really?
Boxster and Cayman is out. In certain territories, the security that you can put in the car doesn't meet requirements. That's quite. If you think that's quite an old platform now,
But you think
that generation
fixing that versus throwing the whole thing away and
Right.
starting again, I think they'll probably try and fix
Yeah.
that, won't they? And reskin it or do something. I don't know. They've got to do something, haven't they?
Yeah, everyone's in that same Same boat.
And people have got to want to buy them as well.
Well,
so
yes, it's all very well us talking about where all the sports cars gone, but
Yeah.
the reason they've all been trickling away is that the A110 has been hugely successful in sort of our world. We see them at our track days, and we get a huge number of correspondence from owners, but it's from a global car company point of view, it's a tiny market. It's not something you can sort of build anything substantial on. Look at Alpine, the next cars are all electric to appeal to that market.
And it normally has to be a joint venture. A110 was a joint venture initially, which obviously didn't go terribly well. Catering,
you need to. There's far more factors at play. You'd hate to be, I think we said it a couple of times, being a product planner and on the board of a, as Dickie's point, isn't it, as a major car company playing by all the rules in every territory, every market, trying to please everyone. You can't. And it's who you upset, isn't it, along the way, who you're sort of prepared to take a risk on upsetting and ultimately losing customers. I think if you lose a customer, it's so much harder to win that customer back, isn't it? They once they walk away, whatever you've spent trying to get them in the first place, it's 2, 3, 4 times that amount to get them back again, to convince them that.
Well, it feels like Porsche have upset their customers in an attempt to please the investors and banks and financial institutions to back an IPO valuation, isn't it? So they were betting their brand on a bold future strategy that complied with all the regs, and that's where the world's going. And then the world doesn't quite follow that, and then you're left with your pants down, aren't you? A bit.
But that at the time, that was the decision.
Well, it would be odd to make, and to ignore that would have seemed even more ridiculous if everything had gone in that direction, and then Porsche. Well, we thought no one was good. It's a horrible position for everyone to be in, isn't it? Which is why we've loved doing our eras test, because we can ignore
look back
all of that.
But we have still been driving some cool new stuff, particularly obviously. Beginning of this year, you were in and out Pagani's, like most people are in and out of the
that's part of my contract.
Obviously you've now lowered yourself to being in and out of Ferraris, having driven the F80.
F80.
Another going at 296.
296, 296 GTS, which I hadn't driven, although it's been around for a little while. And it was really interesting, actually, because I went to the F80 launch only with experience of the GTB, and I remember that as being a lovely car, but quite muted, and the character was quite sort of dialed back and maybe not as exciting as you'd want it to be. And then getting in the F80, and they've suddenly brought, it's a much more highly evolved and more aggressively tuned engine, but it's much more exuberant and vocal and just a really exciting thing to be around. And I got in the GTS not expecting it to be anywhere near that, and it sounds brilliant. And I know they've subsequently looked back at the launch info and first drives and things, and they've worked quite hard because they had to reroute a lot of the way the engine breathes, I think, and that's enabled them to make it sound much better. But yeah, holy moly, it's such an exciting car. More so because of the way it sounds, I think. I mean, you guys were driving it as well, weren't you?
Yeah, you really hear it sort of breathing, don't you? Sort of inhaling and exhaling, and all
I think
the turbo.
you don't appreciate in having that bit kind of taken away how much it removes from the overall driving experience. I think suddenly to have that back brings the whole thing to life and makes it. It's always been a ferociously fast car, but somehow now it's making the noise to go with it. It's a real thrill.
Yeah, it makes your senses are sort of linked now, aren't they? Because you're hearing the same as what you're seeing, and
you can drop like a R8. You can drop the window without dropping the roof behind you. So that's just brilliant. It's just like turning everything up, but without any distortion of noise through wind noise or anything. So it gets even better when you do that.
It's a bit like taking the air filter out of your normal car, and it's like it sounds a lot quicker, but it's doing the same thing, which is it's part of the experience, isn't it? The sound. Yeah.
Maybe that's what Ferrari did.
Put a
K&N
just
filter
launching
on.
the engine, loads of rubbish getting in.
And is it still? I haven't driven one since I think it was carved. I drove one to Le Mans, didn't I? The Smurf press car.
I've driven that one.
Yeah,
the Spider-Man.
Spider-Man Smurf car. The most photographed car, I think, on the way to Le Mans from every kid on a bridge. But it is the 296 always sort of those first drives, weren't they, were all about its performance because it was that hybrid system. But I think you mentioned it earlier before we started recording, didn't really have that memorable character. So has it brought some character into it that makes it feel
absolutely
and sound like a Ferrari? That
I think if you take a friend out in and they're not used to those sorts of cars, like if you took them out in a 458 or a Gallardo or a Huracan or something, and they'd never been in anything like that before, it's absolutely what you would dream a supercar would be. I think if your first experience of a supercar was a early 296 GTB, I think you'd be shocked at how fast it was, but you'd be a bit with the engine noise, because that's supposed to be the main event with those cars, isn't it? But from what we experienced in the GTS, it's a proper really
feels
exciting,
like a proper Ferrari Super Junior supercar, and sounds it.
And the engine's so important in a Ferrari, and that really is the chassis is incredible as well, and the way it looks, but the engine is as
well. That hybrid powertrain is so impressive, isn't it? How it just is seamless in its application.
It's really well integrated,
and how it just fills the gaps when you need it to. But it's still got a top end as well, isn't it? That was always impressed with the 296.
Yeah, you've got massive low and mid-range performance, and you can just sort of part throttle it and drive around in a very high gear, and it's still effortlessly quick. But when you really work it, it's got a really strong appetite for revs, hasn't it? And you can, if you use the lower gears, you're going really fast, but you can just live in those lower gears, can't you? Second, third, and maybe a little bit of fourth sometimes. And it's quite a switch in character, isn't it? I think they've done a very good job of making them very livable. I know we spoke about that in a previous podcast, that you could do very long distances in it and be quite comfortable, but then when you really light it up, it's it's super exciting. So no, that was great. It was, and particularly pretty much straight after the F80, it's kind of repositioned where I have 296 now, which I think is partly due to experiencing the GTS and partly because I'm in love with the F80, and there's a very strong connection between those two cars now, whereas I think 296 prior to the F80 it wasn't connected to anything. So I think you kind of wondered where it fitted in, and SF90 is a bit of an odd sort of outlier really now, how that fits in. I think that's still slightly confusing. It sort of doesn't seem to have a remit or a role, does it? Where you're supposed to see a V8 Ferrari sit in relation to a V6, the hierarchy's not quite turned on its head, but it's a bit
jagged, isn't
shuffled up, isn't it? Someone shuffled the pack now, which I'm sure it'll make more sense when, a few years down the line when other models start to appear. But no, it's nice to have my initial opinion changed slightly, for the better, I think. And going from the supercar to the sensible family estate car you've been driving.
The sensible family estate that's 120 grand, 550 horsepower.
M3 CS Touring.
M3 CS Touring.
You were impressed with this, weren't you?
I really liked it, It was around Thruxton, so mostly on track and then a bit on the road. I've driven M4 CS and M3 CS Saloon before. Really impressive cars, but you get out thinking, I'd almost rather be in a proper sports car, something a bit more bespoke.
Or a regular M3, M4.
Because that feels like a more rounded proposition. But I think being an estate, it sort of colours how you look at it, and you think, this is an estate car I could use on a circuit, and it does really well on a circuit, and it's got loads of performance, and you can chuck dogs in the back, and maybe not at the same time. But but I really enjoyed it, and it felt really nice on the road as well.
Because we had M4 CS last year, didn't we, on Car of the Year? And it was an impressive car, but there's always a pause with it, isn't it?
It's a really tyre dependent, weather dependent car.
Situation dependent as well. You would have a mega drive on it on a very sort of specific route in the right frame and no traffic. But then the rest of the time, I'd rather be in your old long-termer, which was a better all-rounder, as you say, but could do 90% of what CS can do when you push it. You think, well, what was the point? But then M5 and M2 CS are both previous Car of the Year winners and very completely big step up from their standard cars, aren't they? But those 3 and 4 CS Saloon and Coupe never felt as special. So it's interesting here, the Touring, whether it's a perception thing because you see this body shape, or
I think it's
just
probably a perception thing, because if you're in an M4, you naturally think it's going to feel special all the time.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, you feel a bit disappointed. But being the estate, it felt very similar, actually. I drove the two back to back to the M4, but you're just more wowed at the fact that you're in an estate car that can feel like a coupe and is really responsive and great on track.
Well, it's probably not really any bulkier, is it? It's
about
marginal weight increase.
Yeah, 80 to 100 kilos, I think it is, which you do feel on a circuit, but
it's forgivable
exactly
because it's a big estate
There's more
car,
margin
isn't
in
it?
it. Yeah, exactly.
It's such a heavy car to start with. 80 kilos is a smaller percentage than it would be in a
exactly.
normal car.
Yeah, it's like carrying a passenger or something in an M4. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's like
Dave Shep's wallet, maybe. In a way.
your expenses. It's pretty similar sort of perception thing, isn't it? To RS7 and RS6.
Yeah,
you always feel you're having a better drive in an RS6 than you are in an RS7. Well, I am anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you
It's
go
that
into a
weird thing,
slightly
isn't it?
different mode, don't you? Your expectation shifts a little bit. You quite like the novelty of a estate car that's that capable. Maybe
I think your
it's less expected, isn't it?
Yeah. It's similar. AMG have done. You'd always rather be in an E63 estate than saloon, although actually the saloon was arguably the better, more impressive car to drive when you were really going. But you always had, you'd want an estate car. Wouldn't you?
And it's more of an achievement. It feels like making an estate do what it does. So I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's a bit of a cliche saying all the car you could ever need, but it kind of is. It's a track car, family car. Daily.
Would you take it on track?
Do you know what? Considering how good it was on track, I wouldn't. I mean, usually we drive like an SUV on the track on a launch, and you think, what is the point of this? And nobody's going to do it.
Yeah.
But this was on Cup 2, ceramic brakes, and it felt really sorted. I did about 20 laps in a row, and it did
Really?
Wow. Yeah, it just kept going.
That's
really
impressive.
good. So I think I would, just for the novelty.
Yeah.
It looked great in the clip that you put on Evo's Instagram.
Yeah.
Really cool.
There's loads of modes to play with as well, like two-wheel drive mode if you want to.
So it's got all the same. Have they changed any of the X-Drive or M modes to compensate for the estate and the weight, or is it just the same as an M3 CS?
I don't know. There wasn't that much detail actually in the press release and material, but I imagine they have a lot more weight at the back. They probably tweaked the dampers or something. Yeah. I know the standard M3.
I think they did with a regular Touring.
And there's
coupe.
different bracing. It's based on the convertible M4.
There's a lot of underfloor bracing.
Yeah.
It's all so it's just software tweaks.
Yeah, probably
as
with the dampers
M3
and
CS.
things.
I look forward to just having a go in one of those.
Yeah.
Looking for a replacement for the RS6. And you've been driving old cars, James.
Yeah, I've been.
Which seems to be, I don't know, is that unfair that all these guys have nicked all the good stuff and you've been left in the old stuff? Or
well, we drove the old stuff as well.
Yeah.
We were present.
I had help. I wasn't doing it single-handedly. Luckily, I had these two to help me. I've been driving cars from a decade ago. We've reached the 2010s in our Evo era series.
Which is the decade when you started.
Yep. Yeah, I turned pro in end of 2012. As well. I got a proper job writing about cars. So that was the first of the. If anyone hasn't followed the series, we started in the 80s, done 80s, 90s, noughties, and then 2010s. This is the first time I'd experienced these cars as press cars when they were new. Yeah. Which is maybe why I ended up writing this one. I didn't get to just drive them and enjoy it. I had to turn out.
So you didn't drive these in period then as a road tester?
Yep. Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, right.
Yeah. So.
So this is one that you would have gone in with a knowledge base and sort of a view and an opinion on them.
Yeah.
Were there, so run through the cars, it was a Fiesta ST.
Yes, we had a
ST200.
ST200, best hot hatch ever.
Some bloke called Richard Meaden brought that one.
Yeah, it's my car.
Was he late? Meaden 265 Cup.
That's right.
A110, regular.
Yeah, just regular
one. Straight in
just a base model A110.
911 Carrera Gen
911.2 GTS PDK.
That's right.
Make it nice and easy to find one. R35 GTR, which obviously being an R35 GTR, there is no such thing as a standard one, so it was the one with the mildest.
It had a very, very, very mild
lit
tune,
chart, really.
and it was one of the cars. Certain cars in certain eras test, we could have had it in an early group, so we could have had it in noughties. But noughties, the long list of cars we would have quite happily had in the noughties test was so long that we ended up whittling it down to 7 cars, and all the other years we've stuck to 6.
Yeah.
So, and I think it was announced, wasn't it, in 08? First cars appeared in 09, and then they just started to appear in the UK around.
Well, we had it in car deal, wasn't it, in 08, 09?
I don't think it was 08. Was it 9?
Might be 9, but yes, and also it's the sort of 2010s.
It just sort of
really
dominated all the tests in the early noughties, so that was our excuse anyway. But it fitted in nicely though. It didn't seem like a totally out of place.
It's a mega thing. And the other one was the McLaren 650S as well.
Yes.
What was your view on these going into this?
Yeah.
And what was it when you came out the other side?
Yeah, well, it was a pleasant surprise actually. So I wondered if this might be the decade where things started to lose steam slightly, because the noughties was amazing. Like Dickie just mentioned, there was such a long list of cars we could have put in that decade. It really was a bit of a golden era for drivers' cars. 90s the same. And then I loved being on the 80s test a couple of issues before, because just the novelty of driving those amazing old cars and their shapes, and they were so full of character. So I wondered, this was the decade where curb weights began to get a bit higher, dimensions began to get a bit wider, a bit broader, a bit fatter generally. Interiors start to get more complicated, more touchscreens, more modes. It was really interesting. The previous tests, pretty much every car was a manual in all the previous tests. In this one, it was half and half. Half of them were manual, half of them were double clutch paddle shifts. And little things like half the cars had a real handbrake, half of them had a switch. This was that point. So going into it, I thought, oh, it's a shame I'm writing this one. I've got the one where it'll be, sorry guys, not as good as it was. But actually, all 6 of these cars were really, we've deliberately chosen 6 really characterful cars, but they really were such memorable cars to drive, and very different as well. Super different.
Really different.
And again, your point on the long list for the noughties, the 2000s, this equally could have been quite long, because remember we were coming up with it. There's cars that straddle it that you think, well, how can you not include a Type R? How can you not include a Ferrari? How can you not include a Cayman instead of a 911? And Club Sport S's.
We could have had a Cayman GT4. There's all sorts.
R8s and all kinds, second generation R8s or V10 and all kinds of cars. It was still a rich.
It really
vein,
was,
wasn't it?
because for each of these tests, we're not trying to choose these were the 6 best cars of that decade, because that would be like a sort of super eco-ty. The idea is that it's a bit of a kind of snapshot of that time.
And then we always had a 911.
Yes,
because that was our sort of control car was through the decades, and we could have done the same with Golf. But then if you fix too many points in the test, then you don't get the variety. So I think the 911 was the one that really indicates how much cars have grown, and power and weight and all of those things. And then the others are just give you the differences between the decades, don't they? And I think it's a really nice, really strong group of cars.
It really was. I think they were all a 5-star car, actually.
They're all, it's just looking at the list in front of you there, just the Meaden is that rich. We could have had quite a few Renault Sport models, couldn't we?
You could have had a Clio 200 Cup as well, which would have been great. So you did have to make a decision between cars within the same manufacturer sometimes, and now you're scratching around to find a manufacturer that
barely double figures
has any of them.
Because you can, Fiesta or Clio. No one would argue with that.
I think we've always, for those that aren't familiar with the test, we've tried not to gravitate towards the most extreme, RSs and really stripped out stuff that we would have maybe done more of at the time. So I think subtle differences, aren't there, between the way we've selected these cars and maybe some other group tests, but I think it gives you a better sense of what each decade was like. And I think,
and part of the reason we chose that particular 911, 991.2. It's 'cause
That's the one.
That's when they went turbocharged. You know, so actually the other theme of the decade was turbocharging.
Yeah.
This was
Everything is
Yeah.
Was there a car that you were, well, all of you, because you were on it, weren't you?
I was on it.
yeah.
Which was the car there that you most wanted to drive, and which was the car you thought, not that there's a duffer in there, but that you take it or leave it?
So
because you've got exposure to it, or you've driven plenty of them.
The one I was most excited to revisit going in was the Meaden, because when I was a youthful road tester, I was a bit snobby about front-wheel drive cars. I was only interested in sports cars, and the Meaden was one of the first hot hatches I drove that made me realise just how exciting a really well-sorted hot hatch could be. And it was really nice to go back into that one because, and actually we should give a thank you to the company.
Yeah,
that
the guys at
source
Driving
the car.
Heroes, so drivingheroes.co.uk. I found them on Instagram actually, but they don't have a massive inventory of cars, but they've always got a really lovely, whether it's a Ford hot hatch or a Renault or something, and it's always an absolute minter with, you know, low miles and exactly how you would want one. So part of the challenge of this test is when we've had quite specific cars to find, it's like we're racking our brains who owns one or who do we know. So we'll thank everyone when we go through in a later podcast, all the reflect on all the eras. But Driving Heroes were really, really good guys. They introduced us to Lee, who's the owner of the Meaden, who's a lovely guy, and joined us for 3 days. So that's been part of the pleasure of the test, is spending some time with the people that own some of the cars. So that was I had a number of Renault Sport Meaden long-term test cars during that period, so I had really fond memories of that car. It was just a real moment, I think. Renault Sport at that time, they were absolutely on a par with Porsche and their RS products, I think, in their own sort of area of our world. So it was really nice to jump back into one of those again.
And it was kind of a civilian spec, if you like, because all of
comfort seats, didn't it? It didn't have the Recaro seats, which was quite strange, but quite nice. Actually,
you mean customers don't spend huge amounts of money on options that us as journalists just assume everyone? So have the Recaro seats. They're several £1,000s, but funny that. So that was the car you wanted to revisit. Which was the one that, I mean, there's no duffers there, but which was one that you think?
Definitely not.
There's one duffer, Dickie, but
650S. We never rated them.
We're being a bit cruel because the Fiesta ST200 that we used was Dickie's own car. Not that he's trying to pump up the values or anything, but
I don't need to pump the values of those. They're already
overpriced.
I had a vested interest. I had some skin in the game in this test. But it was quite weird. I was quite nervous about how these guys would feel about the car, or you take it quite personally when I wait and see what they're like. Are they smiling? What are they? I've had a good time, but it was funny to drive my own car in an Evo group test context. It was because I had to try and get in it like I would get in all the other cars, and driving position's a bit funny. But then it was pretty well received. I
actually really liked it. I think it's one of the best hot hatches I've driven for the road, at least.
You were looking at second hand.
I was, as soon as I got back at the accommodation, I was like, £7,000, £8,000. No, really.
Dickie said £250,000.
Oh,
when we put it
that's what was on the insurance value. I was hoping one of you was going to fire it off.
You're like, that corner's flat over there.
Let me just adjust the tyre pressures for you.
I think I really like it. There's a bit of a personal story with the car because my dad bought it new, and then he, very lucky, he gave it to me for my 50th birthday. I know I don't look anywhere near 50, but it's an important car to me. But I think people have quite a snobby. There's quite a lot of snobbery around hot hatches, aren't there? I think, and the Renault Sport stuff was the sort of thinking person, discerning enthusiast hot hatch, and then the Ford stuff is it's a bit chavvy, or is this or is that. But actually, when you jump in it and you use it as an everyday car, being a Ford of that era, everything works really well. It's comfortable, it's functional, and being of that era, it's still quite small, still
Yeah.
quite light. It's still really lively, and the handling balance is more
that
surprising
was the
than you
generation, wasn't it? On Ecochi 2018, it was a non-200, but John drove it up to Hoyk for Car of the Year, and he sort of got out and Metz for dinner and goes, I think I've just, in that usual John Barker way, I think I've just driven the winner. Can I have one as a long-termer? That instant, and everyone on that week was, as Dickie says, you got in it and it did everything you expected it to do, but to a much higher level than your expectations are. And Dickie says people can be a bit snobby about them, but they're still a brilliant hot hatch. That's what Ford just gets right. But even if it's not an ST, a Fiesta, that generation of Fiesta, it's just
it's fundamentally
really,
right
from the beginning, wasn't it? It's like the first Focus. It was just fundamentally spot on.
And the ST feels like it's been engineered to be fun at road speeds as well as the Megane is sort of track and road, and it's just designed to be fun, but like you say, can still work as a normal car to do normal things
I think
with so well.
Fiesta and the Megane are sort of opposites, really. I think the Fiesta, you get in it and drive it, and its normal pace is actually quite a lot of what it has to give. So then if you think, right, I'm going to drive it fast now, it doesn't actually go much faster or come alive anymore, because it just feels really energetic and kind of playful. The Megane is a bit more serious, isn't it? So you have to dig deeper, but there's more to dig into, and then it kind of starts, the diff really starts to work, and it kind of comes together in a more serious performance car.
They kind of come at the hot hatch brief from different sides, don't they? Both are really, really nice. But the one I was most unsure about going into the test was the Nissan GTR, because the only version I've driven on public roads was the Nismo version, which is very specialised and very, it cost six figures when it was new. The R35 famously, I think it was only just over £50,000 when it was launched, and the kind of performance to pound ratio was incredible. And then through its life, it gradually got pricier as things do. This was, if I remember correctly, this was a 2014 model year car, so that's when it had a few updates. They made the suspension a bit softer. They updated
a bit more power as well than the original ones.
In that Nissan way of every year, there was a new model year with tiny incremental changes,
different bolts and titanium bits.
But it was an awesome thing. I think I would find it a really difficult car to group test. I can see why it won so many group tests, because it's sort of its own. They're
very much
thing,
their own thing,
Yeah,
and they do things very differently. It's been a long time. I couldn't have told you actually the last time I'd driven a regular R35. I think we drove a Nismo at the same time on the LFA and 22B test. But I was surprised how light the steering was, and it sort of took a little while to connect with the car, which is not how I remember it.
The Nismo is really tactile.
Yeah, that's very, very kind of sharp and connected. But I think what surprised me about the Nissan is we're used to, at that time, it was big and heavy in a way that its contemporaries weren't that big and they weren't that heavy. But the harder you drive it, the better it gets.
Yeah.
But now we're used to big, heavy cars. But the harder you drive them, the worse they get, don't they? They sort of feel compromised by their weight and what they do. And then I think the Nissan always felt like a bit of a magic trick, because it's the way it does things is not like any other car, and then what it actually is capable of doing is not like any other car. It covers the ground so effectively.
It's ferocious, isn't it? When you really do sort of dig into it.
It's the first time you'd driven one.
Yes, it was actually, and it's funny because you hear lots of different opinions about them. Some people say, "Oh, it's just like a computer game." Other people say it's a really analog, mechanical feeling car. I was split between the middle, I think, because like you were saying, the steering's quite light and disconnected. Then the whole car's got a brutality about it. It's really connected, and
you can hear it sort of chuntering away as well. It feels a bit crude in some.
Low speed. The car part, the diffs are winding up, trying to pull out a parking space, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a mix of modern and old school for me. I really enjoyed it though. It was kind of everything I hoped it would be.
Yeah, I'm really glad it was in the test, because it was, and it set, I think, maybe the whole industry on a slightly different course. As in,
I think it certainly turned Porsche. Some of their cars, certainly the turbo, 911 Turbo became quite a different beast.
Yeah.
Post R35, it was much more performance,
Yeah.
like driving performance focused rather than just effortless mile eating.
I think
ability.
to your point on it feels like a computer game. I think you can always tell when someone hasn't driven an R35 because that's
It does not
driving.
feel
That
like
was at the
that.
time.
It takes some driving.
it
it
takes
really
you,
does,
and I think
yeah.
I would be honest. Before I drove one, I was like, "Oh, they're just like sort of just like driving one on Gran Turismo." But when you drive one, I think you're taken aback by how physical it is, and you do have to drive it.
You have to be
And
concentrating.
you have to be
Yeah.
sort of prepared to take control. Otherwise, it won't throw you off the road. But to get anything out of it and to understand it, you do.
Yeah, you have to commit. You definitely have to
commit.
commit to it. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
just go down the road super
No.
quick without
Yeah.
any thought.
No,
and
and it makes some other supercars feel actually a bit more sort of switch like.
Yeah, yeah.
You expect a GTR to be that's a bit of a switch on and off, isn't it? But actually, you can be very precise with it and get into a flow, and it can make some supercars that you think will be really engaging and tactile and stuff feel a little bit more disconnected,
Almost too calm,
almost too
precise.
calm. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of R35s.
Yeah.
And then a complete opposite to that was the Alpine A110. So very light, very
And also
comparatively
the only
simple.
all new car in that
Yes,
that group,
that's
wasn't
true.
it? Everything else was sadly. Well, they weren't at the time. They weren't. Were they? They were midway through their life cycle.
But they were still
and-
evolutions of other things.
Yeah. But yeah, they only still. Yeah, 110. I think you could.
I think the Alpine still feels like that now, though, doesn't
Yeah.
it? It's such a singular thing because it is, isn't it? It's kind of evolved gradually, but fundamentally, you could drive a regular like entry level one now, and it would be pretty much identical to an entry level car when it was launched.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to get replaced with a Gen 2
Yeah.
A110, so it's a real kind of something to savour, isn't it? I
It's
think.
quite timeless, isn't it? Because they're not adding power and grip to it every
No.
year and making it
Yes.
something
No.
else. It's just its
Yeah.
own thing that's
Yeah.
persistent.
Yeah, they're keeping with. I mean, the naming's changed, aren't they, between S and GT and stuff like that? But they're still offering a simple entry point and not just chasing higher up the price.
and they've
point
not
with
messed
cars.
with it either, have they?
No.
The
No.
colour, they were all seemed to be some different shade of blue, didn't they, initially? But now they're offering lots more personalisation with the colour. But in essence, they haven't messed with the shape or changed the lights much, or it's just very pure.
Yeah, very pure and very defined of what it wants to be, and it's not trying to be anything else. Which I think, as each year has gone on, there's more respect and desire for that
Yeah, I
sort of
think
car,
so.
isn't there? It's you're like, oh, actually,
I
that's
think they'll be very collectible as a
Yeah.
consequence, because you don't really have to think that hard about. Oh, I need the SE 2017 model year version, so I could have any of them, and it would be
And
lovely.
actually, the base one, as this one was, is arguably the best because it's.
There's a lot to be said for
yeah.
the base one. I think
Yeah.
base or R they're the two extremes. You could
bookends,
almost justify having one of
Yes.
each almost. But
Yeah. But yeah, and going up previous eras, the Elise was such a star of the 90s, and this is almost the closest equivalent the 10s had to. I know Lotus was still making the Elise, but it had become a bit more hardcore.
yes,
And this had a lot of the principles of the Elise, but you could drive one every
the
day.
Elise had strayed a long way from the original car, hadn't it? To our
Yeah.
point a minute ago, they got firmer and more aggressive and more powerful, and kind of strayed from that light, simple, works on any road and on the track sort of vibe. So it's quite a trick that they've pulled off, I think, and people seem to appreciate them more and more and more, don't they? Its
They were a bit
appeal
of a
is
slow
getting
burner,
stronger.
weren't they? To start with price, and it's 4 cylinders, and it's a auto box or it's not. There isn't a manual version, but actually, I don't think anyone ever gets out of an A110. Oh, I wish I had a manual.
I'd be
gearbox."
curious that if someone, I know doing manual swaps is a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the M3 CSL or. I'd be curious to see what one was like. I think it'd be clearly it'd be different, but I don't know that it would be better necessarily.
No, it'd be a different experience, wouldn't it? But whether it would,
I think it just flows so nicely, doesn't it? You just
It's uninterrupted, isn't it, with
yeah,
the
yeah.
paddles, I think.
and the engine's it's nice enough, isn't it? But it's not something you're going to savour necessarily.
Yeah.
So,
no, it's an engine to do a job, isn't it? Rather than sort of something that you're going to be emotionally attached to. It's just there to bring the best of the car, get the best out of the car, isn't there? Was there you two was there a standout car that surprised you more than you thought?
For me,
the Fiesta.
Yeah, I was going to say the Fiesta actually, but the McLaren I think was a big surprise because you read a lot about older McLarens being quite sanitised, quite boring, quite dull, very effective, but not so involving. But this 650S, the noise of it actually felt too lively for the road at times. Like you were almost hanging on, and the steering's jiggling around, and you got loads of turbo noise and things. So that felt like a real different car to what I'd read about originally. And you guys have tested them in period. I don't know whether you feel the same.
I think 12C was certainly quite a strange.
It's a bit remote, wasn't
fish.
it?
Actually, it felt quite like impressive, really impressive in some ways, and obviously it was a very storied brand, but complete startup effectively. So as a first attempt, it was brilliant in some respects and kind of missed the mark in others. I think 650S was when they really started to let the hair down a little bit. I think 12C was a bit uptight and a bit too
Ron.
Yeah, possibly. it was just a bit aloof, and it was just very tied down and
bit by
this was
done,
why
done by numbers.
I don't remember 650S's being quite as feisty as that one.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it's had a bit of a. It was supplied by McLaren. It's a heritage car. It had just been like everything, all new suspension, everything was. So it was as fresh as fresh. But bloody hell, it was
proper
feisty,
lively, wasn't it?
wasn't
It was
it?
mega. I loved it.
Yeah.
It's because I was very lucky. I drove to and from the shoots in sort of North Yorkshire. In that car, and it is. I think it's the car maybe they would have liked the 12C to be with more development time, with more money, and maybe with a bit of outside influence on McLaren, because they were one tiny band of engineers who did the 12C, and I think this was their chance to look at what other people have said.
I think
a bit of outside influence.
Famously, they did a lot of the 12C development in the sim as well. So they said at the time, because to try and win themselves some time and do stuff in parallel rather than we've got this physical car, so now we start to develop it. So I do wonder whether some of it was defined in a virtual sense. It's almost how it felt, the way it steered, and there wasn't that sort of organic feel which the 650S I think then informed. You know, they're so good now, steering and pedal feel, and they're just about as good as it gets. And I think there's a lot of, you can trace a lot of that
kind of the germination
here,
of that.
I think definitely it sort of kind of started to mature in that.
And part of the reason why we put the McLaren in the test, because 2010s was actually a real golden era for supercars. There were incredible cars that decade.
We could have had probably six
Yes.
mid-engine supercars in the test, couldn't we, actually?
But we went with the McLaren because, we could have had the Ferrari 458 Italia and Speciale and so on. But as you said, Dickie, it was sort of almost a start-up, even though
I think
it
was one of the most important rivals, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was in 2010 when it was. I think it was early 2010 when McLaren Automotive was officially.
Well, it was a big
launched,
thing, wasn't it? Of coming into going straight up against. They'd spent decades fighting Ferrari in Formula One, and then you're going straight into their back garden and go, oh, by the way, we want to have a piece of your road car market.
I don't think we appreciate quite what they've achieved, actually. I think because if you're into cars, then the McLaren name it's well rooted in your brain, isn't it? But for them to go from a standing start to what they did and where they are now, certainly in the quality of the cars that they build. Yeah,
because a 6 M5 LT
it's one
is one
greats.
of my that's a
600 LT is awesome, 765 LT is awesome, 720S is
720
amazing. They've
Our
made
Tourer
so
great.
many great cars, and I know we bemoan the fact that they're spun off the same, a lot of the same platform, but actually, if you drove them all together, I'm sure they would feel you would feel the differences between the cars. So no, it's arguably the most significant car in that group, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think
and it spurred other supercar makers on as well. So it changed what they became as well, including Ferrari. Yeah. And then the sort of datum point or control car we've had in each era's test is a 911 Carrera. As you said, we didn't want a GT3 or a turbo. We wanted a sort of mainstream, for want of a better word. So this one, the facelifted 991 generation car, first to go turbo, and we deliberately chose a PDK car as opposed to a manual.
Yeah, I think it would have been perverse to we could have found a manual, but I think PDK's A, it's really good, and B, it's, you know, you look in the classifieds and there are a lot more PDKs than stick shifts, so we needed to sort of get a sense of what that felt like in the context of that group. Should thank RPM Technic while we're thanking people for finding cars, because they were extremely helpful in finding a car that they had for sale and might still be for sale. Actually, I'm not sure, but thanks to them and the owner for letting us borrow the car.
It was a really nice car. It was lovely. Because again, we wondered if this might be the point where the 911 started to.
Well, it was interesting because the Gen 1 991 had a bit of a troubled birth, didn't it? It was.
The steering was a bit weird, and they had those funny the steering and anti-roll control and
stuff, wasn't it? For technology, to your point earlier on, it was that first generation of 991 was technology appearing on cars, but not quite resolved. And you think, well, that's the right thing to do because that's where it's all going. But if a piece of technology isn't right, it can really trip a car up. And I think that early 991
felt really wooden, didn't it?
It felt very disconnected.
They got on top of it before the Gen 2 car. But it was a bit of a misfire, wasn't it?
It was that 7-speed manual as well, wasn't it? Which was quite awkward.
You were never quite. It was just a horrible box to. At that point, the gate was quite ill-defined, indistinct. This just felt like a great 911 again.
Really well sorted.
Small and placeable and sharp and just on the more of a sports car than a GT kind of feel, and the engine character is quite different, isn't it? I think it does mark quite a step between that and the non-turbo.
But it's still got an appetite for revs, and it's still
it's very impressive,
very linear. And I should mention this was a GTS as well, whereas previously we've had Carreras and Carrera S's. We went for the GTS spec because that was the biggest seller,
wasn't it? And they started to add more and more derivatives to the 911 range, hadn't they, in this period? So I think it was kind of one of the sweet spots, wasn't it, in the range?
It's the one that I think that was the beginning of. You either bought a Carrera or a GTS, and sort of not the end of the S, but. Everyone always wants.
It made more sense if you're going to spend a bit more. You might as well spend a bit more again and get that.
The great sort of sales business model that some of these manufacturers have, which is, but it's a cracking car, isn't it? I remember it came out. It was, it did make that engine. You're always a bit it's because it was small T for these, wasn't it? Turbo and big T for the big one. But it still felt like a proper flat six engine, doesn't it? In how it delivers.
It makes a good noise in it, and it's got a good character about it, definitely.
And although it is a bit bigger than the previous generation car, like you said, it still felt small on those roads. It still felt, you felt in touch with every corner of the car, and you weren't breathing in when stuff was coming the other way.
Exactly.
And so on, it felt just right.
And it did set a bit of a trend, didn't it? Because it was the facelift car. I know they resolved some of those early Gen 1 cars, some of the issues with them of how they drove, but it's similar to when the 992 first came out. It was only until the Gen 2s come out that actually, to your point earlier, the Carrera T and the S and the normal Carrera that you guys have driven, they've driven the T as well. It's a mega thing. Feels like it's back to being what you expect a 911 to be, and you wonder in this, it's the first generation of everything isn't quite ready these days. It takes some tweaking and evolving, and so the Gen 2 992 is equally now as impressive as that Gen 2 991 evolved into. But it's just sort of a landmark, isn't it, or sort of a line in the sand of where the 911 goes, and as our datum point throughout, isn't it? It's sort of started from that early.
Big change from a 3.2 Carrera. But
yeah,
within each era, they still feel. The brakes are really good. It steers really well. It has an interesting balance and just feels together in a way that some of the other cars they might hit a high or a low. Their ability isn't concentrated around that sweet spot in quite the way 911s seem to manage.
And it's still, when we're talking to engineers and things on launches about benchmarking, regardless of what if it's a performance car, there's always seems to be a 911 somewhere in their engineering pool of competitor cars to drive, regardless of whether they're building a pure sports car or just a performance car, because it's control weights. And everyone bangs on, oh, motoring journalists are just blind for 911s. That's all they think of. But there's a reason for it, because the industry uses them as a, it's just considered as that sort of datum point for a lot of drivers' cars, isn't it? They've just finessed it.
Yeah,
over
I think
the years.
you can see that as well in these decade tests that we've done.
Yeah,
I think they're probably less quirky. Like the more modern they get, the less quirky they are compared to their contemporaries. But they're still they're definitely different.
Yeah, kind of hang on to the things that were important each time.
Yeah. So no, it was a really
they've all been absolutely been privileged to haven't been on any of them, but to then read the copy and to see it on the page, you think that's just the difference in the cars and the evolution of all the cars, and how the mix that you've all managed to, the cars have come up with to use, have just been a really good spread and representation of what that era was like. It's we've got one more to do, haven't we?
That's right.
Doing 2020s, which you guys are in the process of doing at the moment. So that's
so this 2010s one is in the issue that, well, I suppose the time this podcast goes out, it will have been on sale for about a week.
That'll be an issue that's current when you head into a shop and listen to this. At that point, it's getting bearably hot in this room, so we're going to take a break, stick our head in the fridge. We're going to come back because James has also been driving something. Talking of eras, a new era for Aston Martin, because you've been behind the wheel of a Valhalla.
That's right, prototype
so
for
we
it.
will, you can tell us all about that when we come back, after we've cooled down a bit.
In shorts.
Well, welcome back to part 2 of episode 26. I told you I'd get it right. We're back in our sweaty room, which is lovely. We are talking, in part 2, Valhalla. James has been very fortunate to drive a prototype in the UK round Stowe circuit.
It was,
The Stowe Schleifer.
The Stowe Schleifer. Yeah.
With all that undulation. And,
all that elevation change. And
there's a bit of a slope in one bit, one corner.
Isn't that the accessibility ramp into the office? It'd be massively cruel. So what's it like? Well, this Aston Martin's mid-engined V8 hybrid
follow-up to Valkyrie, isn't it?
Supercar, son of Valkyrie? Or?
Yeah, I think that was the initial headline we gave it. I think way back.
Third cousin.
Twice removed.
Well, this just some backstory on this, isn't it? This was Geneva Motor Show when Aston Martin had its Danny Bahar moment of showing Vanquish, Valhalla, Valkyrie Pro all on the stand in front of potential investors, head of the IPO, along with a load of electric Lagondas hitting at the back of the stand. And this was going to be part of the idea was 3 mid-engine cars, wasn't it, from Vanquish up to Valkyrie. Vanquish has turned into a Vanquish, front engine Vanquish, surprise. And we now got Valhalla, which has been through. Well, this is the first time we've seen sort of anything that's close to production, but it's been in all kinds of. It's been in a Bond film already, hasn't it? Sat in a wind tunnel.
It's been around for a long time, hasn't it? It's interesting though, isn't it? With Aston Martin can be so frustrating sometimes because, like, you look back like to Bet's era stuff with that weird Lagonda, like powerfully ugly. No, the SUV thing. Can't remember what it was called now. Really ugly looking. But super luxury V12, like well before Bentayga and all those things, and it because of, I guess, lack of resource, it never came to be. But that could have been way ahead of everyone else, and a more serious stab at a really like bespoke SUV. And then Valhalla went right the way through the process with their own V6, didn't it? At one point, which there was one with regular turbos, one with e-turbos, which again would have been way ahead. But because they're always in such a sort of, not always unstable, but they don't have that stability that maybe
Well,
Ferrari.
there's always a distraction, or but there's always the funding, isn't there? There's always.
But I feel for that. There's really good ideas within the company,
great
and there's really
innovation.
talented engineering people, and you know the things they do manage to do with what they've got. And I think now there's been some stability, from sort of post mowers to now, with Felisa there for a while, quietly in the background, just making things work. Actually, the cars that they've produced in that period are the best they've had in 20
really
years,
strong.
aren't they?
Yeah, I mean their product portfolio now is from Vantage up to Vanquish, and then DBX 707 and DBX S, and now Valhalla and Valkyrie, which has been delivered, and as you know, sort of got your hearing back, haven't driven it to Le Mans, but they've got that great sort of product portfolio, and they've got an F1 team now that is benefiting from sort of the stability in the reg, so they're finishing in points and all of that stuff, although they've sold their stake in the F1 team. Well, Lawrence has sold his stake in the F1 team, but they've got
brand-wise, they're absolutely where they need to be.
Brand
aren't
and
they?
product are both really strong right now.
Having spent some time with Adrian Hallmark, the current CEO, he knows what they need to do for those next steps. It's stuff that we've talked about before on the podcast, I think, but also just in the office, and when we're talking about Aston Martin, is that journey now for the customer. So you've got Vantage Edge, DBXS. So you don't have to jump from a Vantage to a Vanquish and somehow find another.
Well, Aston's got much more breadth of sort of permission to do far more things than Bentley had, haven't they?
Yeah.
Actually, they can go into Formula One, and are in Le Mans. They're in GT3 racing, and they've got a much broader proposition so far as their road cars go. They just haven't got the might of VW group behind them, have they? Which is the limiting factor. But I think Valhalla's really intriguing, isn't it? Because it's the first. Yep. Valkyrie's like so far out on its own, like this sort of moonshot crazy thing that they did, but not much of that. I guess, well, you can tell me, but some of it is going to filter down, isn't it, into their approach and their philosophy. Yeah. But it was almost like a permission to then do other mid-engine cars rather than a direct. Well, we've taken this, and this from Valkyrie and applied it directly to the next car. I'm guessing it's a different thing.
So kind of the context of this drive was, as you mentioned, is at Stowe, which is the little kind of wiggly track on the infield of Silverstone, which is where Aston Martin has a permanent R&D base. And the car I was driving was a prototype. Production starts probably around now for the finished item, but this was kind of physically representative of customer cars, but it was off tooling. It wasn't a production car, and the software is yet to be finalised and it's yet to be fully homologated. But it was pretty representative in terms of dynamically how it drives and in terms of physical quality. And as you say, Valkyrie was such a kind of mountain peak. It was such a unique proposition. It kind of takes some of the philosophy of Valkyrie. It's quite an extreme aerodynamic concept, and it's a carbon fibre tub. So, I think it's only the third ever carbon fibre Aston Martin. They had the 177 and obviously the Valkyrie. And that's been designed in collaboration with the F1 team, or the kind of tech consulting arm of the F1 team. Loads of downforce, this enormous rear wing that kind of rises hydraulically on stilts at the back of the car, active rear wing, active front wing. And as you say, the engine was a V6 under, I think, Andy Palmer signed it off as a V6, and it's now an AMG sourced V8. So,
but
different to their others, isn't it? It's the black plane, black series motor.
That's right.
Like the other engines, they can go inside it now, can't they?
Yes.
They haven't got that restriction.
The way it was described to me is it's almost like they have the sweet shop of all the internals they could put in it from the whole AMG group, if you like. So they cherry pick and do their own thing as well. So the engine develops, I've written the figures down here because I can't memorise them. It's 828 PS on its own from the V8. and then there's an additional 250 or so PS from 3 electric motors. So it's got a fully electric front axle, 2 electric motors on the front. Then you've got the V8 in the middle, and behind that, integrated into the transmission, which is Aston Martin's first ever dual clutch gearbox. They've never done one before. There's a third electric motor back there. So your total power output is 1,064 bhp.
That's not far from Valkyrie, actually, is it?
Yeah, that's right.
Impressive,
Yeah. And this time they've not bolted the engine straight to the back of it.
Straight to your spine.
So it doesn't make you have a mental breakdown after 5 minutes
Does
of
it
driving.
sound any good, though?
It's interesting because it was on track. I was wearing quite a snug-fitting crash helmet, and I really couldn't hear the V8 very well at all. I wondered if it might be too well insulated, but racetracks are always funny, and
they can sometimes mute a sound of a road engine, particularly if you're then wearing a lid.
Yes.
And they don't feel. You always feel if you're driving on track. Sometimes that's what you're missing, isn't it? Particularly if you're using engine braking and stuff, you can't quite judge it from. You have to be looking at the rev, don't you? Because you do lose that sound, because you're always driving at the top end as well.
That's right.
It's
I think the noise regs are sort of being cranked up as well, aren't they? A bit like emission regs.
That's right.
There might not be a big like Euro 6 to Euro 7 step, but I think that incrementally things have to get quieter year on year. Probably.
Every few years there's like a few decibels.
So I think what we've been driving for the last year or so is probably made to a different set of rules, so you can never really compare like for like. I think it's going to be increasingly hard, isn't it, to make.
It's tougher than ever, and in fact the chief engineer mentioned they actually stiffen the engine mount slightly to deliberately let a bit more vibration into the chassis,
so you get that sense of something.
a little bit more connection to but it was a really, really impressive car. So I had kind of two kind of stints on track. I did a few sighting laps in the Vantage to kind of refamiliarise myself with the track, and also had a passenger ride with Darren Turner, the race driver and development driver, who's played a really key role in this car. He's done endless testing in it at Nardo and Idiada and other test circuits to kind of refine the active aero and all the other aspects of it. And it was actually quite instructive to drive the Vantage first, because normally when you drive a new Aston Martin, you kind of have in your head a feel of what it's going to be. You think, it's going to be a front engine rear drive.
It's a variation on the theme, isn't it?
Really. How closely you sat to the rear axle kind of determines how you feel, doesn't it?
And this is the first time I've come to drive a new Aston Martin without any kind of preconceived idea of how it will feel, because the Valkyrie is such an unusual thing. It was never going to feel exactly like a Valkyrie. And the steering, the kind of rate of response and weighting of the Vantage steering, there's a lot of that in Valhalla, even though it's a mid-engined car, and it's effectively four-wheel drive because you have this electrically driven front axle. It still has a lot of that feel of you are in an Aston Martin or a modern era Aston. And it was really interesting driving a car with the front wheels coming into play. So it's not overpowering, but coming out of some of the slower hairpins there, you feel the front kind of hook up. You feel
that traction sort of contribution.
You definitely feel that the front's... It's almost a bit like driving a hot hatch with a kind of locking diff on the front. You feel the steering just tighten slightly, but it's not overpowering.
There are some quite tight... I mean, they are quite extreme corners there, aren't they?
Yeah.
So
it's a very twisty circuit.
Yeah, there's a sort of 180 left onto the sort of the back straight, as it were. And there's also kind of a hairpin going onto the pit straight.
But it's probably more like corners you're going to feel on the road, isn't it? The radius of those corners is more like accelerating out of a roundabout, or on a good twisty road, rather than very high speed stuff.
Yeah, and like all sort of, it's more of a handling circuit than anything, isn't it? So it does give you that blend of tricky circumstances that you're more likely, if it can't do this slow or medium speed corner, it's got no chance of doing anything else. It's
did it feel like, how does it work with different modes? Did they let you play around with different modes, and did it change much between them?
Very much so. So the same as the Vantage, it's the same little kind of collar-shaped twist component that you use, and there's a kind of default sport driving mode, then there's Sport Plus, and then there's Race. And Race gives you the really extreme aero where the rear wing rises up, and it sort of slides backward from the car as well, so it changes the whole centre of pressure. So I drove it in Sport Plus because that gives you the full 1,000+ horsepower map. If you're in Sport, it reduces it a bit, and then and there is a sort of eco mode as well.
You didn't try that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no
Evo magazine.
There's no EV mode at all, though, is there? It's no. Is it like a 911 GTST hybrid? There's no.
It will be able to drive under electric power alone, but it'll be for quite a limited range.
Is that then front wheel drive?
That's right. It becomes front wheel drive in E-mode, and when you reverse, it's front wheel drive because there's no reverse gear in the gearbox.
So
it uses the front motors to drive.
Yeah.
But that'll be fairly minimal. They couldn't give a figure on the day because they're still waiting for homologation for the final figures.
So it's kind of SF90 ish in that
Yes.
respect, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's as a car. I mean, it only stayed, but it's a limited exposure. But where do you think that car sits? Because it's 850. There's no confirmed price, but it's sort of $1 million car, which puts it in that weird space, doesn't it? Which is SF90 Ferrari, but more than that. But FS90 XX, but that's sounds more extreme than the Valhalla. But it's more than both of those cars are more than a Revuelto.
Yeah.
But similar, the Lambo's got similar sort of powertrain, mid-engine concept.
No physical link between the front and the rear, electric front axle. But it felt kind of like nothing else I've really driven. It really felt like its own thing. It's quite a few years since I've driven an SF90, but I think maybe that's the most comparable car I've driven. And it's it definitely has a track focus. I think Aston Martin's playing on the F1 link, both the real one in terms of the engineering team being involved in making the car, but also the interior is deliberately quite sparse and there's a lot of carbon fibre on show, and it definitely has a track focus, and it was very precise, very linear on the track, very agile. But it's not like a Valkyrie where you'd have to take a real deep breath.
It sounds like it still would be fun rather than pure lap time.
It doesn't feel like just a track car. It definitely you could drive it to the shops, or you could do a grand tour in it.
So you could drive it to Spa Ring or
I mean, I don't know where you'd put your luggage. Luggage space is a bit.
Well, they're all a bit like that, aren't they?
That's
Revuelto's got a bit of front space, hasn't it?
This has got some kind of bins behind the doors, so it's got these really wide opening.
Is it Zonda style, kind of like
kind of almost side tanks.
Is there anywhere to stick a crash helmet?
Not that I remember.
Just drive there with it on.
Suited and booted.
Well, by the sounds of it, you're gonna have to.
Maybe you'd have a butler in a DBX.
Maybe have it. You sent on or.
But it was really fun to drive, and also Aston Martin were very keen that I switch all the systems off to see what it's like with no driver aids, and it's really drivable. And for such a powerful, potent car, you really can sort of grab it by the scruff of the neck and lob it about.
It's a bit more approachable than like Revuelto. You can do it, but it is a bit like
you have to be
juggling chainsaws or something.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's the big weight of the V12 behind you.
It could be, couldn't it? I think there's a little bit of that in it. Well, that's quite interesting.
This felt very balanced in terms of weight.
Modern Astons have been, the way they're set up, you turn the driver aids off or to whatever setting you feel comfortable with, but you never feel intimidated by them. They're
quite friendly.
They've been set up to work with you.
I think they try and release as much performance as you feel comfortable, and so it's like a umpteen stage traction and like drift mode, isn't it?
There's 10 stages, and it's the same as the Vantage.
So
it defaults to 5.
So
it's the same layout as the Vantage in terms of how you.
So I think they're trying to open it up.
Yeah.
Aren't they? Rather than make it too intimidating.
And there's also 2 tyres you can choose. So if you are going to do track stuff, and I think later we will get the chance to drive it on a bigger track, so we can feel the downforce. It has 600 kilos of downforce, I think, towards its top speed. And Stowe being the track it is, this is more about mechanical grip.
Yeah.
So you can have Cup 2R tyres and magnesium wheels if you're a track goer, or you can have Pilot Sport 5 tyres and forged aluminium rims if you're not. I mean, and the tyres I bespoke to the car, so they've got the AML markings.
Yeah, they all are now, aren't they?
Yeah, that's not a cheap program to do. But I guess you have to do it with anything. Really, whether
that
it's
price
advantage
level as well,
and upwards, don't you? As you say, the price, the expectation, but also the performance. Otherwise, it's just every car is hampered by its tyres.
Did they give you any performance figures and weights and
Yeah, only a dry weight, so...
Useful.
Yeah,
I often
yeah.
drain the fluids out the car before I drive
yeah.
it.
It's a bit like weighing yourself without blood, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've not tried that yet.
But yeah,
Dear end car companies, stop providing dry weights.
Yeah.
They are pointless.
Yeah.
It just makes us more cynical than we already are.
Yeah.
Your car weighs too much.
Well, it's 1655 kilograms dry.
That's 1900 kilos, isn't it?
Probably. You can normally add, it's weird, isn't it? It used to be about 100 kilos, but now with cars being...
I think with all the cooling that's required,
Yeah.
and you've got a battery that needs cooling,
Yeah,
even if it's a small
yeah.
battery.
yeah, you can add more. I
You
think
can add
now
more
for
and
a
more.
modern
And,
hybrid.
it's carbon tub, but there's still crash structures in there. There's bigger brakes, bigger suspension components, everything to make the aero work. There's a lot of...
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it sounds... It doesn't sound like it feels as heavy as...
No, it's very, very nimble. Like, it's got a really positive front end, but without feeling sort of nervous or darty. It's a really linear car.
I think it's what we're finding, isn't it?
Yeah.
Most of these cars, you look at the curb weight, dry weight, whichever weight they've quoted, and you sort of think, oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
But actually, when you almost have to just drive it and not worry about the weight figure,
like
really, don't you? But
bizarre analogy, but it's all comparisons. It's like the M5. We all know it weighs more than a 3-bed semi, but actually when you drive it, you're not. That isn't
like
the thing.
A 2-bed semi.
Yeah,
with a conservatory.
Yeah. But it's not the thing that defines how it drives. Is the mass? It's just the.
Yeah.
But that's all to the tech that goes into it, and you kind of think, well.
I mean, everything would feel better if it was 1,300 kilos.
But then sometimes with these hybrid cars like Revuelta, which we've driven, you haven't driven, Stu.
I'm not allowed out the office.
Yeah. The torque vectoring in the hybrid stuff actually helps it feel lighter in a weird way. So if you took all of that out, yes, it would be lighter, but then maybe you wouldn't feel as light.
It might feel more like an Aventador or something.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
less
Did it feel
friendly.
like that, do you think? Did it feel like the hybrid was adding something to the
Yeah,
experience?
I mean, definitely having the front axle engaged, even though they really wanted it to feel like a rear-driven car, not a four-wheel drive one, so it doesn't dominate the experience, but it's quite cool. I felt this particularly in the passenger seat with Darren Turner driving, but a little bit when I was driving it as well. If you do have everything switched off, if you come out of a corner with the rear end sliding a bit, you still have the feeling of being driven forwards because the front hooks up and keeps the momentum up.
Nice.
I think the one thing I felt it was maybe missing, and it's hard to make a judgment to this, on a closed test track wearing a crash helmet, but I wonder if it might need a bit more kind of shock and awe, like more sound, more, and the acceleration it's really quick, and getting into fifth gear even at Stowe, which is not a big track, so no doubt it does the numbers, but I wonder if people who are going to drop $1 million on a hypercar might want it to feel more intense. I wonder if this is almost too good in a way, because it's so linear and so well managed, the way it delivers its power. I wonder if people will want it to feel more wild and dramatic.
Because
like
Revuelta does feel like that, doesn't it?
It does. It's got a lot of the drama of, say, a Hurricane STO or something. It's got that sort of
It needs that
theatre.
thump and theatre to make you realise that you've stepped up a mode. And
it'd be interesting to see how other people react to it, though, won't it? Like whenever you drive any other Aston Martin, you get a lot of attention, don't you? But generally, it's more often than not, it's positive attention, and they're just like excited to see it.
Whether it's a Vantage or a Valkyrie, which
but I wonder if this maybe it doesn't have a V12 in it, so it's not quite like the Lambo, but perhaps just because it's something different and it is relatable to a Valkyrie, but it's something that people haven't seen before. I think maybe that's going to be part of its appeal. Is it's a new, genuinely new player in that area of the market, isn't it? But
I think when we drive it on the road, that's almost part of the test, isn't it? To see how people respond to it. And
I
see
mean,
how
as
it will be.
Dickie says, Aston Martin's always seem to be positive reactions. There's
much so. More so than
you generally get people, like if you're pulling out with petrol or something, someone will stop, and even if it's nice car,
and people let you out of junctions and things,
which you
they don't always.
They're not super flash, are they?
You don't always get that with a Ferrari or Lamborghini.
It's that refinement to the design that they're quite aggressive. You obviously put the current cars have got a lot of aggressive detailing, but actually the shape is all very quite soft
you
and
read
nice.
it as one form, don't you?
It's not jarring with add-on.
Valhalla's
bits.
pretty curvy, isn't it? Actually, they've still managed to get quite a lot of that form into a shape that's traditionally quite sharp.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And in your default driving mode, the wing sinks and fits sort of almost flush
yeah.
with the body. But then it does stand out like a chaparral or something when you're in the.
it's
the
like
race
it's
mode,
quite
so.
a weird combination, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
the aero is more not quite as extreme as a F80, but
Yeah.
it presents like that, doesn't it? When
Yeah.
all the wings are out and
Yeah.
everything's sort of switched on.
Yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, it's very elegant and quite discreet
Yeah.
from the images I've seen of
Yeah,
the car.
I think it's a really attractive car. Actually, this was sort of camouflaged. It had sort of graphics on it to break up the shape with it being a prototype. But it's got really nice presence.
Yeah, I've
to
seen
it.
a couple on the road actually coming out of Stoke.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Undisguised.
Yeah.
They've revealed the car anyway, so there's no
Yeah.
secret
They had it
to
on display at Le Mans and so on.
And it is a very striking design. It's interesting. It still looks like, and I had it at Goodwood. It still looks like an Aston Martin. It could only be an Aston Martin. It doesn't have that generic super stroke hypercar mid-engine shape, which I guess is why the aero is important, but it hasn't dominated the design.
No.
Because that's often what happens, isn't it? The design becomes fixed because, well, you want this much downforce, so, well, you're going to have it, it's going to look like this. It does look very distinct, and it's its own thing. It's not trying to be something else. It's very...
Be interesting in dealers. It's not the kind of thing there's going to be loads of them lined up, but to suddenly have that car in an Aston Martin dealership where a Ferrari dealership or a Lamborghini dealership or McLaren, or they all have lots of mid-engine choices, but they don't have any of the other stuff. I wonder if that might help them get attention from people that otherwise aren't, that just don't register with a Vantage or a Vanquish.
It's going to be with they are going toe for toe with Ferrari, aren't they? They're going to have some Amalfi now, isn't it? Rather than Roma, 12 cylindry, and then they've got Pura Sangue and DBX, and then you've got Valhalla, which puts them into that mid-engine space. Very top end. It's for Aston to go into, but it's probably... Well, you either do it one of two ways, don't you? You either go in at the very top, and then you'll have model lines come off that at a lower price point, or you go in at the lower price point and try and build up all the time.
And it's not always been that joined up, has it, with Aston? But they've got their equivalent of the Icona series, which they've done for a long time, haven't they? With
the Speedster and things like that.
Yeah, and Victor and Valor and all those cars that they've not quietly got on with it, but they've just been doing that. But it's not necessarily been as joined up as Ferrari's plans. But they have all the pieces of the puzzle, don't they? They just need to put them all put them all together,
get people in. But then it's Aston Martin has its troubles, which are sort of, being a public company, are quite open, aren't they? But everyone in that market,
I think they all have, don't they? Everyone. I know we keep returning to this, but it's such a volatile time, and it seems to flip. So, like even the companies that have made billions and billions in profit and been investing billions and billions in future models, suddenly it just seems to get very ugly very quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, but hopefully they can only do what they need to do, which is they
keep making.
They need to make cars.
Keep making the best cars they can make, and hope something sticks, don't they? Really?
Yeah,
but
I think it's.
You'd have to think Formula One. Did you not drive the safety car and medical car?
Yes.
Was that the same thing?
That was also at Stowe. It wasn't the same day,
okay.
but yeah, which was really fun. Maybe we should chat about that on a future podcast, because they were both really fun cars to drive.
Save that for the next one.
But yeah, I think back in 2019, when, as you say, the Bahar moment of all the cars, there was a lot of debate generally over, should Aston Martin do a supercar? Why are they doing a mid-engine supercar? And some people would argue, yes, it makes sense. Others would be like, well, it doesn't make sense for that brand. But I think now, with a successful F1 team, with Valkyrie having set out the stall for them, albeit in a very specialised way, it feels like it fits the brand better than it ever has.
You've got, and also you do have to build the cars that there are customers for. If you stick too religiously to, well, we're just going to build front-engined GT and Super GTs, and that's lovely, and you produce a fantastic family of cars. Yeah. But that only appeals to those that want a front-engined car. There's a next generation that only want mid-engine cars. You only just touched on it. You only need to look at Lamborghini's figures to see that they build an SUV that is their cash cow, but then outgoing Hurricane and Aventador and everything else flew, and all the new stuff.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
now they've got a
New-
fully electrified
New
range of
portfolios.
cars, haven't
Yeah,
they? Which
and
is
they will fly out the showroom, so that it's the mid-engine stuff is possibly maybe what Aston was lacking. It sounds like as they have done with all of their most recent product, probably since Andy Palmer took control of having that focused on the strategy, and they've stuck to it. Whether they've delivered it on when they were meant to deliver it, but that's for obvious reasons. But they do now have that. There's nothing else you could throw at them and say, well, you haven't got one of these, so I'm not going to buy one.
I think Felisa did the unsexy stuff, didn't he?
Yeah.
There was all the
Steered
promise,
the ship.
and then none of the promise was actually realised, and then he's had to come in there and make sense of it all and try and facilitate those cars being developed. I mean, they've had such a tough time, haven't they, from those veterans from veterans from Valkyrie that are left that aren't dribbling in a corner somewhere, and then they've gone straight from that to a DB12 and Vantage and Vanquish and Valhalla, and it's just been relentless, I think, for them. But I think you look at the model portfolio now,
it's really strong.
It's a really sexy range of cars, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I imagine when a Valhalla is a next safety car, which, let's be honest, it will be. Why would you have a mid-engine supercar in your portfolio and not?
That'd be pretty cool if it was.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I bet the drivers will be happy about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
a bit quicker.
Easy to keep tyre temp.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's because then you're just putting your star car in front of a huge audience.
It's an amazing shop window, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have anything to do with Formula One, let alone a race team and half the races with your safety car and medical car.
Yeah. And have a Vantage is cool. We'll get onto the safety car in another.
Yeah.
But I think
and the medical car too. They got DBX, which was really fun to. Anyway.
But I think if you have Valhalla as the car at the front of the grid, will be a cool thing. And it's, if you think of all the other hypercars that have been gone, coming, been forgotten about, AMG one. Does anyone remember that? And it's just to think that position that they're in, they have still delivered this car that is completely against anything else. It's clean sheet of paper. Yes, okay, the engine is off the shelf, but it's to their specs. It doesn't sound like there's a huge amount of compromise in this stuff. So hopefully it does what it needs to do.
When did they hint at when we'll get a proper go in a finished
probably
car?
Towards the end of the year.
Okay.
So maybe in a hotter country, and probably on track. I imagine. So
Bedford.
Bedford.
Bedford also.
Yeah. Well, this ticks all the boxes, doesn't it? So,
I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, sounds like it's. I mean, it's been a long project, hasn't it? But you'd rather they get it right.
It started and stopped a couple of times, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But,
that would be interesting. That would be a good one to drive. I can see three
It's-
people
it's-
here trying to put their hat in the ring.
I think I'm free for whenever it is.
I've checked those dates, and you'll be shaving your head again. So you don't have to wash your hair.
That's it.
Yeah,
It's a truly compelling. car, I think it's really interesting.
It sounds it.
Yeah.
Good.
It looks it. That sounds good. Should we end that one on there before we all pass out?
Yeah, it's getting quite hot again.
But it's nice to have these lights on. So thank you very much. We are going to do a Q&A. I know we said this 20 episodes ago, I think.
We've finally got the
we finally got an email
address.
Yeah, it's
sorted now.
taken us this long to get an email address. So podcast@evo.co.uk. Send us your questions. We'll read them out and try and answer them. I'll read them out and someone else can try and answer them. I think would be the best thing. Yousuf, James, Dickie, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, everyone,
for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers.